Unity Station didn't have seasons. It had atmospheric cycles. Every 3 months, the overhead LEDs would shift from a sterile lab white to a slightly warmer amber to simulate autumn. But for Isa Castillo, it was a joke. Isa sat in the ventilation subsector, her back against a vibrating coolant pipe, staring at a crumpled Polaroid. It was a picture of her family's home in the Andean highlands. White, jagged peaks against a sky so blue it looked painted. "I miss the crunch," she whispered to the empty room. "I miss the smell of air that's been frozen solid." High above her in the tangle of conduits and darkness, Vane watched. Vane was a Shadow-Stalker of the third rank, a cat-like predator species whose very existence was defined by the mantra, "Silence is survival." On the obsidian peak, his homeworld of jagged glass and searing magma vents, a single misplaced footstep was a death sentence. To Vane, sound was a tactical failure. To Vane, Isa Castillo was a walking disaster of noise. He had been assigned to shadow her, a diplomatic way of saying he was to ensure the human technician didn't accidentally blow up the station with her incessant tinkering. He found her fascinating in the way one finds a bright, loud insect fascinating. She hummed while she worked. She tapped her wrenches against the hull. And now she was talking to a piece of paper. Vane detached himself from the shadows, his matte black fur absorbing the dim light as he descended the wall with effortless, liquid grace. He landed behind her without a sound, his amber eyes fixed on the Polaroid. "The paper shows a structural collapse." Vane's voice was a low, gravelly vibration that barely registered as sound. "The mountains are covered in white decay." Isa didn't jump. She was used to the black shadow that lived in her rafters. She just sighed and held the photo up so he could see. "It's not decay, Vane, it's snow. It's frozen water. It's home. It's the quietest thing in the universe." Vane's ears twitched. Quiet. The peak is quiet. Heat is quiet. Water is for consumption. Why would you desire to stand in a planetary-scale refrigeration unit? "Because in the snow, the whole world holds its breath," Isa said, her eyes distant. "Even a Cathar could learn something about true silence there." The opportunity came 3 days later. A survey mission was flagged for Niflheim 6, a Class 7 glacial world on the edge of the sector. The High Command wanted a security shadow for the human survey team. Vane volunteered before the request was even fully processed. He told his superiors it was for tactical observation. In reality, he wanted to see if the human was lying about the silence. The ramp of the survey shuttle hissed open, and the atmosphere of Niflheim 6 rushed in. It wasn't just cold, it was a physical weight. The air was so dry it felt sharp. Isa stepped out first, her heavy-duty thermal gear making her look like a bright orange dot in a world of blinding white. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Vane crept out behind her. His obsidian claws were extended, ready to grip the volcanic glass he expected to find beneath the white dust. Instead, his front paws vanished. He didn't just step, he sank. Within seconds, the snow was up to his powerful chest. His ears pinned back instantly. His tail puffed up to 3 times its normal size, his fur standing on end in a frantic attempt to trap heat. "Isa, the surface is a trap. It is consuming my physical form." Vane began to lash out, his powerful legs churning the snow into a frantic, powdery spray. The galaxy's most feared scout was currently a flailing ball of black fur, fighting a war against a drift of frozen water. Isa burst out laughing, the sound ringing through the crisp air. "Vane, stop. You're not sinking, you're just heavy. Stop fighting it. Spread your weight. You're a predator, remember. Use those big paws." Vane grew still, his snout covered in white crystals. He realized the trap wasn't pulling him down. It was soft. It was cradling him. He gingerly extended one paw, spreading his toes wide. He stayed on top. He tried the other. Soon he was moving with a tentative, floating grace. He stopped and sniffed. The air didn't smell like the recycled ozone of the station. It smelled of nothing. Absolute, frozen nothing. "The sound," Vane whispered, "the vibration of the station, it is gone." It's the snow, Vane, Isa said, kneeling in the drift. It's the only place in the galaxy that truly knows how to be still. Vane sat back on his haunches, his amber eyes dilating until they were almost entirely black. He watched a single flake land on his paw. It didn't break. It just sat there, a tiny, perfect geometric secret. For a scout trained to see every shadow, a world with no shadows was intoxicating. "Watch this," Isa said, falling backward into a deep drift. Vane's muscles tensed to spring, thinking she had been struck by an invisible beast. Instead, she began to sweep her arms and legs. "Snow angels, Vane. It's what you do when the world is this beautiful." Vane walked around the impression she left. To a Cathar, every mark on the ground was a trail, a warning, or a kill site. This mark was none of those. It was useless. It was inefficient. It was magnificent. He didn't have arms like a human, but he had a long, powerful tail and 4 powerful limbs. Vane dropped into the snow with a heavy whump and began to wiggle. He kicked his legs in wide arcs and lashed his tail back and forth like a windshield wiper. When he stood up, he hadn't made an angel. He had made a terrifying, multi-winged Cathar war crest. He stared at it for a long time, his tail twitching with a rare, undeniable spark of pride. "Not bad, Shadow-Stalker," Isa teased. She scooped up a handful of snow and packed it tight. "Now for the second tradition." Thwack! The snowball caught Vane square in the shoulder. Vane froze. His combat instincts, honed through decades of stalking magma worms, took over. He spun midair, a blur of black fur and claws, but there was no enemy to shred. Only Isa, ducking behind a rock, laughing until she couldn't breathe. Vane looked at the white powder on his fur. It wasn't blood. It wasn't acid. It was just cold water. He looked at the ground, and his predatory brain began to calculate. He didn't throw it. He batted it. Using the same motion he used to snap the spines of mountain runners, he swiped his front paw through a mound of snow. The Vane ball streaked across the clearing like a railgun shot, exploding against Isa's rock and showering her in a secondary blizzard. "Hey, that's a foul," Isa yelled. Vane let out a sound he had never made, a trilling, rhythmic chirp of pure feline glee. The hunt was on. They spent hours in the white void. Isa taught him how to roll spheres to build a guardian for the camp. Vane, being a scout of the 3rd rank, didn't just stack 3 balls of snow. He used his claws to shave the sides, carving a 6-foot-tall icy likeness of a Cathar High Commander, complete with icicle teeth and bark-shard armor. "He is the guardian of the frost," Vane stated, his chest heaving with exertion. "He is silent. He is steel. He is much better than the commander back at the station." When the sun began to dip, turning the white world into a sea of bruised purple and gold, they sat under the shuttle's heat lamps. Vane rested his heavy black head on Isa's knee, his fur still damp and smelling of melted ice. "The humans have a weapon we never understood," Vane murmured, his purr vibrating through Isa's leg. "It is the ability to turn a hostile environment into a playground. You do not just survive the cold, you mock it." "It's not mocking, Vane," Isa said softly, stroking his velvet ears. "It's just finding the beauty in the quiet." The return to Unity Station was a somber affair for Vane. The atmospheric cycles felt more like a prison than ever. The sterile amber autumn lights felt offensive. He found himself spending hours in the cooling sectors, staring at the frost on the pipes. The hijinks began 48 hours after their return. Vane was a scout. He knew the station's plumbing and ventilation systems better than the engineers. He realized that the main promenade's environmental hub was linked to the moisture collectors from the hydroponics bay. If he bypassed the thermal regulators and redirected the sub-zero coolant from the main reactor chillers. The next morning, the residents of Unity Station woke up to a miracle. The main promenade was covered in a glittering 3-inch layer of snow, a perfect mix of flash-frozen, recycled water and modified fire suppression foam. The chaos was immediate. Human diplomats and alien warriors stepped out of their quarters to find the promenade turned into a winter wonderland. The Cathar general, a warrior of silence and steel, slipped on a patch of black ice and slid 50 feet directly into the ornamental fountain. Isa found Vane perched atop a decorative pillar, looking down at the carnage with immense, predatory satisfaction. "Vane, you're going to get us both court-martialed," she hissed, though she was busy packing a snowball behind her back. "The structural integrity of the station remains within acceptable parameters," Vane chuffed, his eyes bright. "The silence was required. I have simply provided it." The station director was furious about the frost-damaged electronics, but the morale of the station had never been higher. People were making snowballs in the cafeteria and skating across the promenade. The Cathar High Command sent an encrypted message demanding to know why their best scout was currently engaged in frivolous environmental manipulation. Vane's reply was short. "The humans possess a tactical secret known as winter. It provides total acoustic dampening and high-velocity projectile training. I am currently mastering the terrain. Send reinforcements." Unity Station never truly recovered. Every year, the atmospheric cycle for December was officially modified to include localized precipitation. Isa Castillo didn't have to look at her Polaroid anymore. She just had to go to the promenade. And there, in the center of the artificial winter, she would find a black shadow waiting for her. Vane never lost his edge. He was still the most dangerous predator in the sector, but once a year, he would lie down in the frost and the foam, making angels in the snow with the only human who knew how to be truly quiet.